So Twitter wanted me to do a spoiler-free review of the Ghost in the Shell series that dropped on Netflix. Ghost in the Shell SAC 2045, and of course SAC stands for Standalone Complex, just like the previous anime series. So a bit of a background, I've watched everything but Arise, Ghost in the Shell wise, and I haven't seen that terrible Hollywood movie because it's terrible, and why would I give them my money? Anyway, so my view on this come from someone who's already a big Ghost in the Shell fan, and frankly, I just wanted more good Ghost in the Shell. So, if you're looking for just like a super in-depth anime review, this really isn't that. This is just, hey, I like Ghost in the Shell. Is this worth my time? Or did they fuck it up? And personally, I think it is, in fact, worth your time. So, my favorite of the Ghost in the Shell series in general has been Standalone Complex and Standalone Complex Second Gig. Those have always been my favorite. The movie was good, but I don't know, there's something about the Standalone Complex stuff that really piqued my attention. And yeah, so that is where I come from in terms of what I like about Ghost in the Shell. And that said, this really does feel like more good Standalone Complex. It's really good. It's it starts off with a chain of consecutive episodes that are one after another, but it has a few like standalone stories sprinkled in. And that's really good. I like that. We have an overarching story, and then we still have time to visit some little side stories. And I won't spoil any of those, but there's a really fun one. There's some new characters, those are good. I won't go over names or anything because I want to be the least spoiler possible. I'm actually a fan of the new characters. There's one that's a guy who's okay. There's this girl, she has pink hair. That's all I'll say about her. And I love the girl with pink hair. She's awesome. I thoroughly enjoy her character. But again, no spoilers, just you'll see the character, you'll know who I'm talking about. That's it for her. I like her. She's cool. Now, animation-wise, that's a big sticking point for a lot of people. For some reason, a lot of people have problems with it being in 3D. I can assure you, one of the heads on it was a head in one of the previous Standalone Complex animes. So like, this is the direction that the direction is approved to. Words are hard. The people that made original Standalone Complex, at least one of them approves of the new design. So who are we to say we don't approve of what the vision of the people who made original Standalone Complex, which this is a continuation of, who are we to say we don't like it? Or we think it's dumb? Now, I mean, sure, you're free to not like it. But you gotta accept that that's how it is. And frankly, it works. It looks really cool, and I love it. Let's be real here, guys. 3D animation has always been a part of Ghost in the Shell. It's always been a sort of seamless mix between 2D and 3D, and they've always pulled it off rather well. So let's be real, the switch to full 3D is not necessarily very surprising to me, and it probably isn't surprising to a lot of people that they did it. And honestly, the graphics are really good. Like, legitimately, Motoko's eyes, I get lost in them for hours. Like, I have a screenshot of this close-up of her eyes, and I just, like, a couple days ago, I just laid there in bed fucking staring into her eyes for an hour before falling asleep. Like, I just fucking stared into her eyes for an hour. Like, I don't usually do nothing for an hour. I can't do nothing for an hour. I'd be bored out of my mind. But I was able to stare into her eyes for a fucking hour. They're so pretty. And the animations in general are very fluid. It just works. It's very well done. The tachikomas, obviously, if you've seen the trailer, you know the tachikomas are in this. That's not really a spoiler. I can assure you that if you enjoyed the Tachikomas in the original standalone complex and second gig, the Tachikomas they still have the same sort of personalities and everything. They're well done. They keep true to their character, and yeah, all the characters like they feel good. Like they don't feel like vastly different or anything. Like they feel in line with where the character feels like they should be personality-wise and everything in this setting. And I think someone said that this takes place 15 years in the future after the end of second gig, I think it was. I might be wrong on that. I didn't fact check that number. But yeah, so everyone just like, it logically fits. And the Major is great. She doesn't even have to talk a lot. Oftentimes, she says just as much with her posture and her body language as she does with her voice. She can convey very well just using her actions, which is awesome. Like, the animation is honestly well done. Like, there are a couple times where like I'm paying attention to her and like I can see a little bit of like a little bit of sorrow in her eyes. Like she's like feels bad for a certain character at one point, and I'm like, that's such a like finesse of detail that I'm almost surprised I noticed it, but it's definitely there. Like a lot of people are like ragging on, oh, it looks like a PS2 game. But I'm gonna be honest with you. Like my brain isn't telling me that why is this in 3D? Why is this in 3D? It's in 3D the entire time. Like you go, oh yeah, it's in 3D for the first like 2 minutes of an episode. But you just get, the plot is really good. You get absorbed in the plot and everything, and it feels perfect. And honestly, you don't, at least personally with me, I never got hung up on the fact that it was 3D. It wasn't distracting to me at all. I've seen some reviews where they said it was distracting. I mean, sure, for some people it might be distracting, but for me personally, it was not distracting in the slightest. And it worked. And there's a lot that they do well with their 3D animation. And I mean, like, does it sometimes feel a little too polished? Perhaps. But it also works because 90% of these people are in some way cybernetically enhanced. So it works, especially for the Major. It's got a full cyborg body. Like, it's also not a spoiler if you've seen any Ghost in the Shell ever. Everyone knows that. Hell, it's even in the freaking intro. Anyway, so it makes sense for her to not necessarily have the most human of mannerisms, necessarily, because mannerisms, depending on the, like, distance, they'd be a lot less prevalent in a cybernetic body, especially if you're just like, mannerisms are a waste of energy and you just delete your mannerism subroutine. But yeah, anyway, I've been rambling for like 8 minutes. So, verdict. Yes, if you have Netflix and you like Ghost in the Shell, give it a watch. I will also say, if you haven't seen Standalone Complex, in Standalone Complex second gig, I would recommend giving them a watch first so that you have a in-depth understanding of these characters before you see where they are now. I mean, look, can you watch it and enjoy it without having seen any of Standalone Complex or anything Ghost in the Shell before? Yeah, you can enjoy it. It's definitely an enjoyable experience. But you'll get so much more out of it. Seen the previous Standalone Complex stuff and you've watched Ghost in the Shell in the past. I would say if you think cyberpunk is cool and you've been sort of waiting to get into a good Ghost in the Shell, now is a good time to do it, and I would highly recommend binging your way through like the 21 hours of Standalone Complex and Standalone Complex second gig. If you're having trouble finding them digitally, you can buy them on Steam, apparently. Like, I was looking there, and you can purchase the animes on Steam. Weird. Especially because they're not on, like, Hulu, or I don't think it's on Verve. It might be. But everywhere I've looked, it hasn't been. So, yeah. It's also weird, because, you know, you'd think Netflix would purchase the streaming rights to all of the Ghost in the Shell franchise if they're gonna, you know, put out a new Ghost in the Shell. I think you'd want everyone looking for it at your site. But I digress. Oh, also, it's greenlit for season 2. So, you know, we're also getting a season 2 of this. So, needless to say, if you like Ghost in the Shell and you like Standalone Complex, you'll like this. It's more good Ghost in the Shell. Is it perfect? Arguably not, but it's really good and I enjoy it. So, instead of doing any arbitrary out of 10 rating system, yes, go watch it, it's good. Fucking mic drop. See you guys next time.